Well, this next story is not about an artist, just a man nobody knew, a man nobody knows till this day, a man who gave more to a community in death than he will ever know. Sabina, nicknamed the Eden of Ohio, and no one's quite sure why. It's known for its quiet, peaceful days, a tool manufacturing company in town, but it is perhaps best known for an unknown dead man, a corpse that now rests in a simple grave in the town cemetery. Its curious headstone reads, Eugene, found dead 1928, buried 1964. Some 60 years ago, an unknown black man was walking along this road about 3 miles outside of town. Word was that he came to Sabina looking for work, but never made it. His body was discovered lying here along the roadside. Townspeople say he died, apparently, of natural causes. The body had no identification, except for a sliver of paper with a Cincinnati address on it, 1118 Yale Avenue, which later turned out to be a vacant lot. But a man named Eugene lived near the lot. Thus, the corpse now had a name. People began referring to the man as Eugene.
He was brought to the local funeral home, naturally, and they embalmed him and held him for identification. And no identification to this day has ever been made.
So, Eugene was placed in this little building in back of the town funeral home. And there he rested on a couch for more than 36 years. When people found out, they came from all over to see the bizarre sight.
Because everybody came to town wanted to know where he was at. You'd have to go give it for directions, and they still do.
He's a legend. He's here with us and probably is going to be.
And coming up tomorrow night at 11, the second part of this bizarre story, we'll tell you why it took 36 years.
Attraction, which is rather odd.
Yeah, especially most people, well, I guess except for artists, most people get their prominence in life or
after the fact.
Yeah, not poor Eugene here. You know, millions of people knew of him and millions came to see him. An unknown corpse that was put on public display in June of 1929 and wasn't buried until 1964. He was called Eugene. And tonight, the conclusion to this most unusual story. For 36 years, the body of the man nobody knew rested on a sofa in this small building out back the town undertaker. At first, townspeople hoped someone would recognize the man, but nobody did. As soon the days turned to weeks, the weeks to years.
Nobody claimed him, so they put him out there for visitors to see, and maybe somebody would identify him, later on. But it never happened.
Harold Hill is the town's former mayor. He remembers the mass curiosity that brought people from all over the country to their little town.
I got calls from, Indiana, as I can remember, far away as Cleveland and places, wanting to know if they'd come down, where they could locate him.
When you came to town, you went around to see Eugene, and that, at that time, there was no enclosure. He was out there, available to the public, and it was a real brave thing to do if you went around at night, to view him, because that was kind of scary.
But then young pranksters began playing cruel, disrespectful tricks, stealing the man's body and taking him on joyrides around town.
Ohio State students, I guess, did kidnap him one night and laid him on the park bench up there at the campus, and they had to go get him.
They didn't care for the type of publicity they were getting. They quietly went out. They did take a minister, bought a lot for him, and buried him.
So, it was on a cool, cloudy October day when Eugene was finally committed to the earth. Dressed in a new suit of clothes and cased in a fine casket, Eugene was buried in the town cemetery some 36 years after his body was found. And they still talk about him here and all over, of the little man who in death is still legend some 60 years later. Most unusual. We've been getting a lot of phone calls from people that said, as a child, I remember seeing Eugene.
Going to see this guy, huh?
That's right. Even one gentleman who was present at his burial, one of the 6 people.
That's an odd story, but it's true.
Finally buried in dignity. Man deserved it.
All righty. Thank you, George.